We've heard of situations where they've both allegedly activated nuclear weapons and shut them down. Obviously, I think some communication happened with the U.S. and Russia, where they came to an understanding that it wasn't either country activating them themselves, and a nuclear war was supposedly avoided. But do you think that actually happened? That they actually activated a nuclear weapon at one point? Was that just to show power, or do you think that that's not true?
There's ample evidence, uh, and of course, Robert Hastings deserves great credit, as does Robert Salas, but not the only ones, that the ETs have turned off the nukes here and in the Soviet Union several times. Uh, and at some point, which kind of caught, I think, our government Air Force off guard a little bit. So a number of these incidents occurred, and men, primarily men that were either security or in the silo working the missiles down below, have actually started coming forward. There's actually an article written in the Minot newspaper about the Minot event in 1966, I think it was. At some point, I think they clamped down on it, meaning, okay, here's the deal, guys. Any more event like this happens, you're not going to say anything, or we're going to bury you so far in the desert in New Mexico. Yeah, they'll never find. They'll find you when they start excavating New Mexico, and therefore we don't know how many times they've shut down the cases, but we know a number. We have the witnesses to a number of them. We have testimony from Russians or Soviet citizens about shutdowns in the Soviet Union, and it appears at this point at least one instance of turn-ons both here and in the Soviet Union, where they didn't turn the missiles off; they set them into launch mode, and so the SAC base guys with the keys are running around down there in the basement, going, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" And they're thinking, "This is not going to look good on my resume." And then at the very last second, they turned the launch mode out. This has happened. And so when you hear me discussing post disclosure and open contact and all that stuff, and this agenda I'm referring to, that those incidents play a huge role in that. So if someone doesn't believe those instances that have taken place, then my other thinking about this subject in terms of where it's going should mean nothing to them.
If a nuclear bomb was put into action, do you think they would do anything about it, or no? Because I've heard Jacques Vallée say that it's come close a few times and they haven't done anything about it.
That is correct. We almost had a nuclear war over the Cuban Missile Crisis. We later learned that there were already nukes in Cuba when they came forward to us, or when Kennedy came forward with the information about that, and of course it went to the UN and all that. We were told they didn't have nukes, and of course we had to prevent that. But they were really serious about preventing it, and I was there. I watched it all. I was 16 years old, and so it was pretty intense. Now we know why it was so intense. Uh, why they were sending U-tubes over there and doing and considering invading, um, because Kennedy at least was told, and a relative of the general. I don't have it handy, but I've read the account. Uh, was told by this relative that he was a high ranking general, Army, I think, and he stated to his near his death that he was the one that told Kennedy that in fact there were nukes already in Cuba. And then there was a near event that took place involving a submarine. The captain chose not to fire. We've had some other close moments in Europe. So we've almost had a nuclear war on a number of occasions, and these are the ones we need to know about. So how long are we going to get away with this? And then, of course, we have tested 1,800. I forget how many thousands of tests were done. It's easy to find. There's some incredible graphics out there about this. In fact, there's one I know about. I need to get it back in play, which shows every single test that was done, and literally launched a cancer epidemic. If you go and study the cancer incidents in the United States, and you look at the curve, it matches up directly with the testing of nuclear weapons all over the place, not just in the United States, but elsewhere. We literally launched a cancer epidemic on the planet, testing thousands of nuclear weapons, eventually underground, which is helpful, but not necessarily prevents us from serious contamination in a number of ways. And so that's how stupid we are. That's how primitive we are. That's how dangerous we are. And we're going to have to deal with that pretty soon, one way or the other.
I heard Tom DeLonge say that Operation Starship Prime, where we let off a nuclear weapon in space, may have had ulterior motives rather than just the stupidity of doing that. But I heard him say that was kind of during the Cold War era, and he thinks that Russia and the U.S. were kind of okay with that test because there may have been an ulterior motive related to ETs for that. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I have not. I mean, I think that came across my internet radar at some point. I didn't dive into it. It's certainly possible they tested it in space, and that's I think very likely that they agreed to it. There was sort of understanding between the two nations about this. That would be intriguing. To me, that's a little less likely, but it's possible. Is it possible they did that in order to, I don't know, send a message to the ETs? I mean, if they did it, the ETs would have laughed their ass off. I can assure you. Is it a stupid thing to do? Oh, God, yes. That's about as far as I can go on that. But I happen to have a degree in physics, which is no big deal. Most of that physics is not even valid anymore, or it's taught in high school. The point is that no, I've been attuned to science my whole life, and you don't have to be very smart or be a scientist to know that you have zero chance of defending yourself against an interstellar species.